There are two ways of learning, the traditional way and the real life way. Sometimes I think that traditional methods of learning, traditional classrooms, textbooks, teachers, they don't allow you enough exposure to the real world or street smarts. And so learning only this way is going to result in really poor fluency and hesitation and shyness and all the things that you guys tell me that you have trouble with all the time. Our whole education system is a little bit broken because we're not encouraged enough to use what we learn in real life. Am I right? And studying English or being a student of English is really the antithesis of being a fluent English speaker. So in this lesson, I'm going to explain how you can move from being a student of English to a fluent speaker of English. Welcome to Go Natural English. If this is your first time here, then welcome. My name is Gabby Wallace and I'm an American English teacher. This is where we talk about fluency, confidence, conversation skills, culture, and everything that you need step by step from zero to fluency in English. This is where I guide you with how to learn English, not just the specific words, vocabulary, or rules, but actually where I guide you as an expert in language learning. So today we're going to talk about how to move from being a student of English to a really amazing speaker of English. So what's the difference between a student of English and a speaker of English? Well, first of all, it's really a mindset. It's how you think of yourself. So do you think of yourself as an English student or an English speaker? There's a really important difference, and you can be both. But I want to really emphasize and I want to encourage you to think of yourself as an English speaker. Even if you are a beginner, if you can say hello, then you are an English speaker. To me, at least, you are. So, are you an English speaker? Yes! Amazing. So, there are other differences. English students traditionally, well, I think of English students as people who sit in desks in a classroom and listen to the teacher talk a lot and don't really get real life applications of English. So you don't usually use English outside of the classroom if you are an English student. Or you might be studying on your own. You might be an English student who uses YouTube to learn, or who studies in the library, or studies in your home, in your bedroom. That's great. I'm not saying that's bad, but we need to add to that. We need to add to your mindset to not just be an English student, but to be an English speaker. So an English student studies English. And to study English in the traditional sense means that you're memorizing lists of vocabulary. Maybe you have spelling tests. Maybe you have grammar tests. You're probably learning the rules of grammar, and you're probably afraid to make mistakes. You may have never used English in the real world because the only real application you have for your English is using it to pass tests or get grades or pass an English class that you need for your high school or your degree program. Anyone here in that situation? You can tell me in the comments. So studying English or being a student of English in a nutshell means to study about English. It's not using English, but it's actually reading about English or memorizing details about the language that may or may not be super helpful for actually using the language in real life. Now, studying English can actually feel better to a student because, now stick with me here, it feels better because you don't have to leave your comfort zone. If you're a student, you're already used to the classroom, you're already used to how to take tests, you know how to abide by the rules and how to get good grades if you're a good student. But in order to be a good English speaker, you actually have to step out of the classroom. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to try new things, things that you might not be good at, things that might be scary, things that might embarrass you, like you might not like the way that you speak English at first. You might make mistakes. People might even laugh at you, but This is the only way to become fluent in speaking English in the real world, is pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And it is uncomfortable, but that is what growth feels like. And think about it. As babies, you didn't learn your native language by memorizing grammar rules or studying lists of vocabulary words. You weren't even in a classroom until maybe age 5. So how did you learn your native language? Well, you learned it by observing and by speaking it. And surely you improved your native language skills by going to school and becoming an educated speaker of your language. So I'm not saying that school is bad. I'm not saying that school is unimportant. It is definitely an important part of speaking educated English, but it's not the only thing we need. We need to use English in real life. So I'm going to talk about how to stop being just a student and how to actually use English in your everyday life as an English speaker. I just want to be really clear that being an English speaker is not about memorizing lists of vocabulary words. It's not about memorizing rules. It's not about getting an A on the test. In fact, I know a lot of English students who are able to get really good test scores, but when it comes to speaking in real life, they fall short, which means they're not very confident in their English skills. So remember that if you want to truly be a fluent English speaker and confident in your skills, well, we have to use them. It's a lot like playing a sport. Imagine, let's say that you wanted to play tennis. You want to be a professional tennis player, maybe even go to the Olympics. So the first thing that you do is what? Read a book about tennis? Sure, maybe. Maybe you watch some YouTube videos about tennis. Maybe you learn the rules of the game. Those are all good ideas, great ideas. But there's something missing. What do you need to do to become a really great tennis player? Well, you need to play tennis, right? It's the same thing with English. It's not enough to know the information. English as a skill is a skill that requires us to create, to speak, to write. And that's why so many English learners, maybe you, feel that it's easier to listen or to read English. To listen to English might be easier because it only requires you to get information in from the language and not to actually create output, which would be speaking or writing. So anyway, you have to play the game of English in order to improve your skills. Okay, so how do you stop studying? How do you stop being just only a student of English? You can continue studying, but the real point here is how do you become bigger than just an English student in the classroom? How do you master your English? How do you control your fluency? This is really about you taking control of your life through English speaking. Okay, so we need to stop thinking about English as something that just exists in the classroom. It doesn't just exist in a block of time when you have to be with your teacher in class. So that is a great start, but if you spend 1 hour in class or in tutoring or studying on your own each week, that's great, but you have to expect to spend at least 2 to 3, maybe even 5 or 6 times that amount of time on your own using English. So if you have 1 hour with your teacher or studying on your own, you should be actually using English or speaking English for maybe 4 hours a week outside of that. And this is a huge issue with a lot of learners, is that we think that we're good if we just show up to English class. But the reality is, if you want to be really good, you have to apply it outside of class. You have to use English outside of your English study time, outside of your English class. So how do we do that? Well, hang on, I'm going to share how. Learning English in a classroom is good. You know, you can do role plays, you can practice your English, and you might have a really great teacher who lets you speak a lot. But even the best actors are not going to be able to recreate what it's like speaking with a native English speaker inside your classroom doing role plays. So the first step is to get outside of your classroom. So don't stop going to your English class. Don't tell your teacher, oh, Gabby told me to skip class, so I'm not going to come. No. Keep going to your class, but outside of class time, make sure that you're getting out into the real world to use your English. Close your textbook. Leave your textbook at home and go out into the real world to use English without the crutch of your electronic dictionary or your textbook or whatever you're using to learn English. It's okay to make mistakes. Speaking English is not a competition right now. You don't have to be perfect. What you do need to do in order to improve is to actually use it. So look around. Do you have opportunities right now to use English in your daily life? What about right now in the comments? You could use English to say hello. And I'm going to ask you a couple more questions that you can respond to in the comments. Most importantly, get ready to leave your comfort zone. You're going to need to start using English as soon as possible. So as soon as you hear something new in English, you can imitate it, you can copy it, you can say it out loud. Now, I learned Spanish in college and I could not speak it for the life of me. For over 2 years studying it every day in college, I really was not confident in my speaking skills. I would go to bodegas, I would go to real life situations where native speakers were speaking Spanish and I didn't understand a word they were saying, and they just really kind of intimidated me because I wasn't sure where to begin. So I knew I needed to get out of my classroom and start applying my Spanish in real life. So I started doing this in little ways. Like I mentioned, going to the bodega, saying hola, ¿cómo están? And maybe going to a Spanish church service, which is something pretty common in most American cities, and listening and then speaking with people who are there, just starting with greetings and then starting to get to know them little by little. So I really put myself out of my comfort zone, you guys. I was nervous. I was sweating bullets in church, only because I knew I would have to speak Spanish, not for any other reasons. But it was really outside my comfort zone. But I encourage you to do that because today I feel great speaking Spanish. And actually just the other day here in Brazil, I was able to help a Spanish speaker translating from Spanish to Portuguese, so that was pretty fun. So the thing is about English, it's going to be a skill that you use for the rest of your life, and you're never going to know just when it's going to come in handy. Basically all the time, English comes in handy. Okay, so now, how do we actually become better speakers of English? We stop being just students. Now we're going to grow into being better speakers of English. So I mentioned, get out of your comfort zone, start using English immediately. Some other things you can do is imitation. So when you hear English, when you're watching a TV show in English or a movie in English, try to actually repeat what you hear under your breath quietly. Unless you're watching it by yourself, then it doesn't matter. You can say it loud. But if you're watching with other people, maybe say it quietly. Okay, and listening to songs in English, learning the lyrics, singing along with them. I do this all the time with Spanish and Portuguese and other languages that I want to learn. Like today, I was practicing my Portuguese actually with a song. Let's see if anyone knows it. It's Hey Baiana, Hey, Baiana, Baianina. Okay, there's not that many words in the song, but that's not the point. The point is I got to practice my Portuguese. And there are some other words in the song. I'm trying to remember. It's like, ela gosta de samba, gosta de... How does it go? So you should keep your English use fun. See where you can use English. Like, let's imagine a situation that actually happened to me today. I was walking down the street, I had just gone out to lunch, and a woman recognized me from Go Natural English. And so she's from Brazil and she started talking with me. And so I want you to imagine right now, if you saw me walking down the street, what would you say to me right now? Without your textbook, without consulting other resources, let's create a little conversation. Tell me in the comments, what would you say to me right now? if it's not 100% correct. I don't want you to look up the correct way right now. I want you to just type something that you could say right now. And then after you type it, after you leave the comment, then you can check and see if it's correct and you can see where you can improve. So English should really feel like a tool that you can pick up at any time to help you accomplish something else, to help you to talk to someone or to help you to get information. So it's okay if it's not perfect. We're going to keep using it and keep improving it every day. So take what you have right now. How could you create a conversation with that? And when you want to study English or when you want to improve your skills, then try doing more activities. Keyword here, action. Activities that are not just reading or absorbing information or listening to English. These are all good things, but try to add more activities where you're actually taking action. Like when you read, you can underline or circle words. If you're reading, take notes. If you are listening, then try to imitate, to shadow, or to say what you hear out loud. So you're using English, you're actually speaking, you're writing. This is so important for your English fluency. And speaking of learning the lyrics to songs, what is one of your favorite English songs right now that perhaps you could share in the comments with us for us to learn in English? I know sometimes it's hard to even think of where to start. What song should I actually learn to sing? So if you have a favorite song that you think would be kind of easy to learn in English, put it in the comments. And that's a great place for us to start to use English and not just study it. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. Again, to quickly summarize, the idea here is to not just think of yourself as an English student who is waiting for information from a teacher, but to think of yourself as an English speaker who is actively using the language each and every day. And this is going to change your English profoundly. I see you becoming a fluent, confident, conversational English speaker, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give a thumbs up. It helps a lot, and I'll be looking for your comments below. Make sure that you're subscribed here at Go Natural English by clicking right down there on the big red subscribe button, and that definitely helps us to help more English learners like you. So thank you again. If you want to keep watching, another great lesson that I'll post right over there is about why you might not understand native English speakers and how you can improve your listening comprehension. So thanks again, and I'll see you here next time. Bye for now.